Okay, well, thank you for coming back to speak with us again. We really appreciate it. So, last time we kind of ended with you guys when you arrived at BYU, but I wanted to back up a little bit because, so Dad, what was it always your plan to become a teacher, or what was the? Did you guys counsel on that together, or did Dad want to become a teacher before you guys even met? What was the story there?
I decided to become a teacher when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
In high
Okay.
school, I thought that this old guy could teach me. I sure could teach him.
Uh-huh.
I had a teacher that kind of inspired me.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Ever since I saw to serve with love, I was
Uh-huh.
folded. I folded in,
Uh-huh.
trying to help other young people.
That's great. Okay. So then it was always your plan to become a teacher. But
Yeah,
then
early on.
so when you went to BYU, then you make the choice to join the Army ROTC. What
Yeah,
was that just a
economic.
financial decision?
It was economics.
Uh-huh.
The salary for a cadet came up to $100 a month, and I said I can use that.
Right,
So I
right.
joined
Okay.
ROTC, became a reserve
Okay, so
officer.
yeah, so you guys just saw it as an easy way to have some money while you're in
Yes.
college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then
It paid off.
you knew you had a an active duty commitment after graduation, and
Right.
so I guess I never thought about this before, but so you guys after you graduate, you do your student teaching there in Provo, Utah, right?
Right.
Provo High
And then
School.
Total high
immediately after
school.
you graduate, you go to Germany for active duty.
Yeah, we started off with going to Washington D.C. to the
Uh-huh.
engineer officer basic course,
Right.
and
At
then
Fort
at
Belvoir.
Fort Belvoir, Virginia, which was uh, what I
Was
think it was 90. It was 3 months. We
hmm
Uh-huh.
graduated in September thereabouts, and we were in Germany by December, weren't we?
in just first of the year, right
First
after
year, right
Christmas.
after Christmas,
Right,
we went to
right.
Germany.
Okay. So and then how long were you in Germany for?
3 years,
hmm
3
basically.
years.
I think it
So you
says
did
2 months,
I mean,
2 years, 11 months, and so many days on my
right.
DD 214, which is a
So
form.
so this must have been strange for you then because you were away from teaching for several years and then to come
Yeah.
back to it. How did that feel? Was that hard to get back into teaching?
Well, as soon as I got an interview to be a teacher, the fact that I had been service for 3 years made me more experienced than those just coming right out of college. So they were actually to get me to. They really liked the fact that I was a return missionary, that I was an engineer officer, and I was going
Mhm.
to teach high school industrial arts. That was
Right,
their
right. And I
idea.
mean, I'm sure, obviously you're qualified and everything, but did it feel because at least for me as a teacher, I feel like teaching skills, running a classroom and time management and all of those things, you get rusty. Even when I go like on a long holiday break, my winter holiday or summer holiday, the beginning of the year, I always feel a little bit rusty. I can't imagine how it would feel after 3 years away from a
No,
classroom. Did that did that feel that way at all?
it seemed like more natural because I wasn't an academic teacher. I was a vocational teacher, and not
Hmm.
you know. I had to
Right,
keep
right.
kids from cutting their fingers on the saw, that kind of thing. I taught woodwork my first teaching job. I was teaching woodworking. I taught
Hmm.
that for a year, and then I drifted off into drafting and mechanical drawings and teaching that.
Uh-huh.
That's when I really started getting into my element as far as a teacher, a
Right,
vocational
right.
teacher.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Huh. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Did either of you have a job when you were kids?
I worked in the Columbus, Ohio, in the public library. I
hmm
was, what they call a page, and I worked in the young adult department at the main library in downtown Columbus.
Uh-huh.
My first job, 95 cents an hour.
That was your first job, and how old were you?
No, I was 16, 7. Yeah,
Mm.
Uh-huh. Wow.
my big
What about
money.
you, Mom?
Well, I had a monopoly of babysitting on
Oh,
our
really?
street. Everybody wanted me to. Yeah, I know it's not, like getting a check at the end of the week or anything, but I did a lot of babysitting in the summer, even, when I was young, still in,
Uh-huh.
for the summer, the entire summer. I had this, probably my first real job was with this one family. They're kind of a well-to-do family, a very devout Catholic family, in fact, and they had 3 children, and I had to make
Hmm.
sure that their son Vinny, he was what do you call them when they're like an altar boy,
Uh-huh.
and I had to help him learn different things that they had to learn because his parents were gone. I was in charge of him
Uh-huh.
and his other 2 siblings. Make sure that he memorized whatever he had to memorize. So I helped him with that. Made sure that he was picked up to go to a class that he had to attend in the summer. And
Oh, interesting.
this family's last name was Titus, the
Mm-hmm.
Titus family, and they were really nice to work for. And then as the years went on, there was other families that I watched their children through the summer.
Uh-huh.
And so I'd say my earliest, where I had to actually report somewhere and work, would be, childcare.
Right.
So,
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
hmm
It's really interesting. You have a question? No? Okay. Well, that's very interesting. So, I guess I'm curious about to go back to when you started to look for a teaching job after Germany. What can you remember kind of what the economic climate was like? Was there high demand for teachers, or did you feel stressed
hmm
about finding a job at all?
No, when we got back from Europe, we settled into Kent with
Mm-hmm.
uh, Norma and Max,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as I got there, I
started looking in the
started
newspapers,
newspapers,
classifieds.
classified as well. Uh, and looking for a job, the first thing I did was I was offered an opportunity to go up to to uh, Fort, what is the name,
Oh, yeah.
Canada.
In the
Uh,
Northwest
in the
Territories.
Northwest Territory of Canada, way
Yeah.
up
Mm-hmm.
just. And I went up there and looked at what their position was, and they had we'd been teaching on the short time. Went to a building. It was called a teachers. It was going to be a place where we were going to hide my family in. It was a house, and I could see us living in that house, and then being in a really dark, cold place up
Right.
there in Alaska. I mean, in North
Canada. This is in
Canada.
Yeah,
Canada.
So I
Northwest
came back
Canada.
down for
Yeah.
that trip. They flew me up and let me take a look at the place. And got back home, and I said, no, I'm not going to take that one.
They
Then
offered him the
they
job.
offered me a job. Then I also
Right.
found one through one. There was an offer in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
And then I called. I uh, I think I called the Kent School District and said, I'm an industrial arts teacher just got out of Germany. It says, do you know of any jobs on close to here? So there was that one down in Bethel
That's all.
School District, and I went down there and interviewed for that job.
Mm-hmm.
After I got done with the interview, I drove up to Pacific Avenue and I went to start at a realtor's office and talked to this guy. I said, "Well, might be going to teach here, and we're going to be looking for a home." And he showed us a little 980-foot little house
980
with
square foot new home,
new
brand
home
new.
with 3 bedrooms, just to walk across the street there from Bethel High School. And
Right.
and so we bought that house and we got settled in, and we started. That's where we
Wow. So
started
you
setting
you
up.
bought that immediately when you got that
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Wow.
since I got the
Okay.
Yeah,
job.
they offered it.
Yeah.
They didn't tell him right then and there that day, but about what, 2 days later,
Yeah, I got
they offered
they
it.
offered the job.
But he thought he would start looking around at what real estate costs at that time, and
Uh-huh.
there was a lot of homes being built in the area. So
Yeah.
So was that Graham Spanaway area kind of developing at that time?
Oh yeah, yes, it
yeah,
was. It was
Mhm.
the bedroom district of
Pierce
southern Pierce
County.
County. A
Uh-huh.
lot of new
Uh-huh.
homes going in that area,
And
so
so you were in the Army Reserves at that time, right?
well, I had just been released. I didn't join the army. What's called the It's called the IRR, the Irregular Ready Reserves. In other words, I
Uh-huh.
just got worked out of an office in St. Louis, and they would
Uh-huh.
give me summer assignments, and we spent the
Okay.
summers uh, going on military duty. I also
I
had to
see.
complete the engineering officer advanced course, so I completed
Uh-huh.
that for the first. It took 6 years, I think, for me to go every summer for 2 weeks to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, for training in advanced engineering.
Six,
I was
six
basically a
years?
civil engineer's course.
You said
So
6 years every summer?
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
We didn't go to
So
Fort Belvoir though every summer.
I did for the first few
Oh,
times. I
I
went down there for
mean,
training for 2 weeks.
it was always in the summer. I
okay.
It was
went in
always
the
the summer,
fall.
2 months, and sometimes I would take off from school a little early in order to
Uh-huh.
go there to do that coursework I
Wow,
had to do there.
interesting. Huh.
Okay.
Okay. So okay, so the proximity to Fort Lewis wasn't a factor then, right?
No,
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Huh.
Hmm.
So okay, so you buy that house there in Spanaway, just basically across the street from the high school, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's yeah.
Mm.
Do you remember the cul-de-sac we lived in on the let's
Well,
see,
he was a baby when we moved from there. He was
yeah,
just 11 months old when we moved into the Graham house.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you
but
don't remember that?
it wasn't that house, was it? I thought it was the one that was on the other side of the street.
Yeah, it
On
was. That's
No, it wasn't
the other
we
side
lived
of
in that.
what was that road? 224th?
221st
221st.
On the other side though of from
Yeah,
the
the
high
other
school.
side of
High
the
School.
high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just drive straight down from the stadium there.
The other
That's
side of 70th Avenue. That was 70th, right?
the
Yeah.
70th.
Or no,
I remember
224th.
that house just a little bit because you guys held on to it as a rental for a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how you know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And during this time, Mom, you're just kind of taking care of the boys. How many did you have at this point?
Uh, well, when we moved into the first house that we bought, the one
Mm-hmm.
across the street
Mm-hmm.
from 224th Street, Marcus was just a baby.
Uh-huh.
So, and then, so we lived there just a few short years. And then I was expecting James.
Mm-hmm.
And then we knew we had to find someplace bigger.
Right.
And so we luckily were able to find that new house that had just been built on 221st Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
know, by
Mm-hmm.
the Martiniks, the house next to the
Right.
Martiniks.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so we moved into that just, about 5 months before James was born.
Uh-huh. Wow. So your first two homes were brand new homes.
Brand new homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you paid for them?
Yes. The little brown house was, I say it was 34,500, and you
It's
say,
38,000.
no, I remember things like that.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
selling
Just to
price.
give you an
The selling
idea.
price was 38.5, but by the time you got all the incidentals in there, it was
Right.
38 grand.
Right.
All
Right.
in.
So
Right.
this gives you an idea of what Dad earned, probably a little over take home pay, $700 a month,
Right.
and our mortgage payment was 325.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then we had three children, so that was a
Yeah.
family of five.
Wow.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, almost half of your income going to your
Yeah,
mortgage.
yeah.
That's tight.
But remember, he would work during the summers and make extra money, so
Right.
that helped.
Do you remember what you put down on that house? Was it a significant chunk?
Nothing. It was.
No, we put 2,000 down.
We did. I thought it was
I
VA.
left.
Mm.
I left college $8,000 in debt. We
Uh-huh.
went to Germany for 3 years. We left Germany. My college loans completely paid off, and we had
Car paid off.
car paid off, and we had a car, and anyway, and then we paid off the loans, and we had $2,000 to put in down on a home when we got back to the States.
Wow. That's great.
So we
Wait, so
lived
you had
pretty
a
frugally even while we were even while I was an engineer officer in Europe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you had a you bought a car in Germany?
Now we bought the car just after I graduated from college.
From
Right.
From
BYU.
BA. Max gave me the loan for the car. I paid Max
Right.
back at an interest rate loan. Paid him off by the time we left. We got back from the States.
So
He
in
was
less than 3 years.
in less than
Yeah.
3 years. We paid him off for the loan with
Wait, did
interest.
you have that shipped to Germany then?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We drove that car around. We were fat cats in Germany with
Oh.
a Chevy Nova,
Uh-huh.
yellow canary yellow with a black vinyl top.
Wow,
You
that's
know,
cool.
I was
Yeah, it was a
one time.
74 Nova.
Yeah, took the missionaries with me we went for a little ride, and we parked into this little village, and a couple of men were walking down the street, and we all got out, and the German had said I was a fat cat American, and the
Yeah.
missionary caught it.
Yeah,
Says you're a fat cat American.
that was probably cool for them to see a nice American car like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Even though they're all running around in BMWs and
Right.
more cities.
Mercedes Benz.
Right, right.
They're all oogling our car.
Yeah,
It was a hatchback,
Uh-huh.
and when we bought it, it had a tent that came with it.
they gave us.
You
Uh-huh.
you know how a hatchback lifts up from the
Yeah.
trunk,
Yeah.
and so you just slip this sleeve over it, which is a tent,
Uh-huh.
and you can get into it, and two people could sleep in it quite comfortably. So we
Oh,
took
that's
it
cool.
camping a little bit. Yeah,
That's fun.
it
Wow.
was a fun car to have.
So your first house was, 35 to 38, somewhere in there. What about the second house?
Okay, that'd be the 3519 house on 221st Street. That was, I think, 56. It's in the 50s,
Yeah,
58, 56, 58,000.
Uh-huh.
This would
Okay.
be in yeah, right after the first of the year, so 1980.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Because
Okay.
I was expecting James, and he came along in June.
Uh-huh. And so you decided to turn that first house into a rental house. What influenced that decision?
What was the question again?
What so the first house you bought you turned into a rental property. Why did you
no,
do
we
that
sold.
No,
Well,
instead
we
of
no,
sold
we
it.
sold
Oh, you
that
sold it.
to
Oh,
get
okay.
into the other house. We needed what little equity we had in it to
Right.
be able to put down on the other house,
Okay.
the
So
second
then
house.
later you bought that house back.
We did. Actually, we bought
Oh,
it two different times.
huh.
We were
Interesting.
explaining this to Marcus the other night. He was surprised.
Now we moved into the end of the house at the end of the cul-de-sac there, and uh,
Uh-huh.
we lived in that house. What?
Um, a total of 8 years,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. We.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well,
I
let's
got this
see.
inspiration to go back to college to work on a graduate
19.
degree after I had I earned my master's degree as well as while I was teaching. I
Right.
take you know after I got out of the service, I had the full GI Bill. I was a
Hmm.
Vietnam era patriot, and I was able to use that GI Bill to get a master's degree. And then I
Uh-huh.
turned around and got the feeling I should go back to school for for graduate work. And so I had an
Uh-huh.
opportunity. I was traveling back, visiting mom, and I went to see one of my old teachers who was working in the school system still. And he alerted me that one of my fellow students was teaching at Ohio State University, as he was an industrial arts teacher like I was. And I went up to visit him, and he said, "Oh, one of our professors is going to go to Korea for a year. We could use your talents to come here for a year and do graduate work." So I went there for that job, as well as
Uh-huh.
using my GI Bill to go on to try to get. That year, I picked up
Uh-huh.
another 90 hours of graduate work, and
Right, right.
okay, and we bought and sold a house in Columbus,
Ah.
and
Instead of renting,
instead of
we were,
renting,
Wow.
we bought a house. I redid the kitchen, remodeled the kitchen, and then we turned around and sold it. Max had given us a loan for a down payment. We did the down payment back to Max, and once we had enough money,
less than a year.
less than a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carolyn,
I
I was coming back from DC on a trip that I go down there for a 2 week assignment
Mm-hmm.
at Fort Belvoir. When I came back, I got bumped on a flight. And so I stayed in Washington D.C. at a hotel for the night, and they gave me another free flight anywhere that American Airlines, wasn't it?
I don't
I
remember,
mean,
but it
anyway.
was
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
Carolyn, we were going to leave Columbus, and your mother flew out west, back out to
Uh-huh.
Seattle.
Seattle. She went down to where we were living, and the house, two doors down from that house, was for sale. And the market was very tight, and the lady couldn't sell it. Who owned it?
Uh-huh.
They had gone through a divorce, and she
Now, oh, this is a house right next to Chapels,
right
if you
next to the
Right,
remember,
chapel,
right.
in the
Yeah,
yeah,
on
middle of
that
the
road.
block.
in the middle of the
Yeah.
block,
If you remember, you lived in it for 1 year.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she made an
I
offer, and we bought it from her directly, without a realtor involved, and we were able to buy that house, and we moved into it when we came back from Ohio, and
Wow.
we bought that house.
yeah.
Well, it was kind of a catch 22. The house that was at the end of the cul-de-sac was where all our equity was. So
Right.
we moved back into that house and then started renting a house mid block. And
Mm-hmm.
when we got back into it, I took a loan out on it and got enough
Uh-huh.
money to buy the house out in Graham that we had there. So we had two rentals there on that block, and our
Right.
home out in Graham, plus the
Wow.
little house, plus the little
Yeah.
house there. Then, so real estate was
Yeah.
pretty good to us. We spun
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Then
Wow.
I don't know if you know. Did you ever meet Cecil? What's his name? That owned the house in Kent we bought.
Cecil. You
No,
mean
no,
Axelson?
Axel.
Axelson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he was white. He was a widower. He was in assisted living care, and he's going to sell that house. And so we made an offer on it, and we were in second position on it. The first guy tried to purchase it, and he
Didn't
couldn't. He didn't
qualify.
qualify, and so we went after it, and we qualified. And so we bought that house there in Kent,
Kent.
that
Yeah.
house, and that was
Yeah,
our
that was what, like 2004 or something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, about
2003.
2000.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to think. Were we in Okinawa yet? Was it
No,
before we
no,
went to
No,
Okinawa?
it was
we
before.
had that house
A couple years before we
was
went to
that
Okinawa,
yeah,
so the early
yeah.
2000s.
Yeah.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah, I sold the house at the end of the cul-de-sac, took that money and purchased that house in Kent. And we paid that house
Right.
off right away. And we held on to that as
So,
a rental while we were overseas.
And the price of that house, what didn't we pay 139
139.
something for
And
that?
we
Yeah.
sold it for
oh
two. We
wow.
sold it about. I think we had it. We came back from Germany.
Germany?
We came back from where? Yeah, I'm trying to
Oh,
remember. We had actually gone to Okinawa when
Uh-huh.
we bought. after so we had the home there in Kent, and the house, and we had the house in Spanaway,
Uh-huh.
and we sold the house in Graham, took that money, paid off the house in Kent, and
Uh-huh.
when we came back from Okinawa, we sold the house there at Mid Block, and then we
Right.
Next
turned
to Chapels.
next to the chapels. Then we bought the townhouse here
Right.
in Georgia. And we, real
Right.
estate.
Right.
I was a real estate mogul.
Yeah. You got to keep your
Kind
money
of.
moving around. You got to make your money work for you, you
Yeah,
know.
Right. So at one
Don't
point you
sit.
owned there in the Spanaway area, you owned four different homes at the same time, right?
right. Yes,
You had the Graham house, the two on 221st, and then the small your first house. You owned all
yes,
four of those at the same time, right?
yes. We were the
Yeah.
we did.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Max was pretty helpful in giving you guys loans and
Yeah, he
helping you
was.
out.
Well, he knew we were good with our money, and we were good for our money. You know what I mean? He
Right.
knew that
Mm-hmm.
he saw how we lived our lives, and so he knew
Right.
there we were very low risk.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
So uh, once Grandma said to me, "Yes, Max surely was nice, wasn't he, to give you those interest-free loans?" And Dad and I said, "Oh no,
no,
he didn't.
we
We
paid
paid
interest.
interest."
Uh-huh.
We didn't pay as much as a banker, would charge us, but he made more money than if his money was sitting in the bank. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
He got
Mm-hmm.
made, so he made a little bit of money off it. But yeah, we're just grateful that we could ask Max for that, and it, wouldn't hurt him, and
Yeah. We
Yeah.
bought the car, we paid it off. We bought the house, we paid it off. We bought
all
Right.
within short
all within
times,
short
very
periods of
short
time.
times.
Right. Right. Right.
And,
Wow.
he was
Interesting.
grateful.
Yeah.
So then, how many years did you teach at Bethel before you went to Spanaway Lake?
Oh, that's kind of, let's
Well, let's
see.
see.
Okay, you didn't go to Spanaway Lake until 91 after your head injury in Chelsea. He was born.
Hmm. I
So
was trying to remember how that
he was
happened.
he was associated
Oh,
with
yeah. Okay.
Bethel
When
High
I
School.
when I came back from my graduate work at Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
they put me into the junior high. They
Mm-hmm.
had a position for me there. I really was very reluctant to go there, but I taught there for 2 years. And then after I taught there for 2 years, they said, "Well, we'll put you back in the Bethel High School, but you also need to teach over at Spanaway Lake." I
Oh,
was teaching drafting over at Spanaway Lake, and I was teaching applied physics at Bethel High School.
I
That
see. Okay.
applied physics class uh, was go, and I went back to then after stopped teaching after my head injury. I stopped
Mhm.
teaching at both schools, and I stayed at Spanaway Lake for a couple of years, and
Uh-huh.
then I went back to Bethel High School for one more year. Then I retired. So I was at Bethel
Right.
School District for 27 years.
Right.
In the district,
Okay.
Yeah.
and when I retired, I went to got into the Department of Defense schools, and I went to Okinawa for 5 years, and then I
Mm-hmm.
went to Germany for 5 years. I
Right.
taught
Right.
school for places, and
Was
then we
Spanaway Lake
retired.
was Spanaway Lake a new high school? Was
Yeah, it
that
was
built?
Mhm.
built
Uh-huh.
then. Yeah,
While we lived
while
there
we
in
lived there. Yeah,
in Graham
Mm-hmm.
or Spenway, yeah.
Okay.
Here's that Spenway.
Interesting. Okay. So then, okay, yeah. So then you finish at Bethel, and you guys make the decision to join DoD schools, and that's when we moved to Okinawa. And
yeah. We
uh,
dragged you out there with Chelsea to Okinawa.
I
You
didn't
had
feel
nothing to say
dragged. I
about it.
I fully enjoyed that move. But
Oh
what kind
yeah.
of went into that decision for you two? What
Oh,
were
we
you
just
looking
Um,
for?
Adventure.
yeah.
Well, that year, earlier in that year, the year was 2004, and I went to Thailand to visit my brother Mark,
Mm-hmm.
who lived in Bangkok.
Mm-hmm.
And I one day I went to bank school there, and it was
Mm-hmm.
an American, what do you call it?
An
what do you call it?
international school.
International school, yes. And I just loved it. I just
Mhm.
said, "Oh, this is really neat." And I was talking to some of the teachers, and I said, that my husband's thinking of retiring, and he would love to get hired on something like this. So I think we were kind of thinking of that as well.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and so we started looking at it real closely. Here it is, February of 2004. By August of
Right.
2004, we're over in Okinawa, and he's got a teaching
Right.
position. So things
Wow.
went real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
can remember the
I
telephone
remember
call.
you had applied to a bunch of different positions, and
Hmm.
I remember it kind of felt like you were willing to take, just to get into the system, you were willing to kind of take whatever they gave you, right? Is that what
Right.
the way it went?
Well, when I got my application in with the DoD, I got a telephone call from them, and
Hmm.
they said, "Well, we have positions here and there." And I said, "Well, I like the math position in Okinawa, Japan." So I
Hmm.
got into the system by going there teaching middle school math, which was
Right.
pre-algebra. And after I was there for 5 years, I had the opportunity to go to Europe, and it was just
Hmm.
fell right into place. I should take any job in Europe I could get. When I
Right.
got into the school system there in Hohenfels, it's kind of interesting because when I was there as a young lieutenant, I had gone to that base to do range maintenance. That's
Years earlier, like
31
over,
years difference between
yeah,
the
Oh
time I was
wow.
there as a young lieutenant. I was back there again
as a school teacher.
as a school teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
but one
Wow.
interesting thing about that, getting on with Dodds, Dad put in his application and
Hmm.
wrote on it he would be available 2004, right?
Mm-mm. No,
Hmm.
And in 2000,
they called me up right away.
yeah,
I
right
had
Uh-huh.
away. And it was a guy, and they were offering a position in Turkey.
Oh wow.
And so he says, "Well, I can't take it because
I had to have one more
I
year.
need one more good year to get my Washington State retirement."
Right.
And so they left him alone. And then what happened? Then the
The
following
following year,
year
I
we
didn't get
didn't
anything. We
hear.
didn't hear anything. But the
Hmm.
And
following, so I taught 2 more years beyond when I
Right.
could have retired.
yeah, because
Yeah.
that was in your 25th year of teaching at Bethel, and then you
Mhm.
could have retired. So
Huh.
2 years passed on, and he kind of thought, well, maybe they just forgot about me. And he thought, well, maybe I better call them.
Yeah.
Remember?
Uh-huh.
And they were happy to get his call and that he was ready to go.
Oh
Because I was,
really?
And
yeah.
yes.
Because I was prior service, they
Uh-huh.
had not.
Hmm.
They have they pick up veterans right away if they want to come
Right.
and work in the Dodge system.
Uh-huh.
And so a
Oh, so
lady called. Oh,
do you
go
think if
ahead.
you had called after the first year, you would have gotten in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
most likely,
We left
because
in oh
Hmm.
three.
they just were happy to have him,
Right.
you know.
Wow.
And so when this lady from Washington D.C. called, and then would you ask her? We were living in that house next to the chapels then,
Uh-huh.
and she asked you the question, just general questions, and
Yeah.
then would you be willing to teach? Did she bring up Okinawa
Yeah,
or?
she gave me about four different parts of the world again.
Uh-huh.
One was an English teaching position. I'm not prepared to teach English any
Right.
level, but the math portion came up in Okinawa, and I jumped on that,
Right.
Yeah.
and it turned out to be a real good
Oh
situation.
yeah.
With
Hmm.
with all the experience I had in teaching,
Right.
I set some good ground rules for helping get my program together as a math teacher that
Right.
first year, and
But
the vice principal
that
who
must have
was there.
been that must have been kind of I'm sure very different for you, because you hadn't had a lot of experience teaching middle school aged kids and then also middle school math.
Yeah,
You had been mostly a high school industrial arts, physics, drafting type of teacher.
Yeah.
Was that a major
Mhm.
switch for you to suddenly go to Okinawa and teach middle school
Well,
math?
that first year, it was difficult for me to find the right curriculum that would work for me.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
they gave me I looked through their math potential, and uh, I found that there's a program called Samson Math, and I
Uh-huh.
got into that, and that's what I used as my curriculum, along with the other things. And it covered everything for that middle school math that they needed. Basically, at that age level, it would be um, let's say fractions, ratios, and percents. Trying to get
Right.
those numbers into their brain about the sequencing of that kind of material.
Hmm.
It was a lot of that, just fractions, ratios, percents, trying to
Did you
get them to
ever
understand.
did you ever have kind of a what have I gotten myself into moment with this sudden change, moving to Japan and teaching such a different subject and age group and
Well, not really. It was I think more than anything else, it was the fact that I was all of a sudden inundated with a curriculum that I had never
Mhm.
taught before. Just that
Right.
first year of getting your curriculum together, so that you have a pattern for the young
Uh-huh.
people to work with.
Right, right. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah, and then you said 5 years later, you guys moved to Germany. I remember that was kind of always your goal. That was the whole reason you got into
Oh
Dawes
yeah,
is you hope to go back to
right. I
Germany.
want to get back there.
Yeah, that's great. And then
Yeah.
that's where you finish your career, right?
right.
Uh huh.
Hmm. That's nice. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. You begin your career in Germany, and then it kind of bookends
Yeah, that's
your
really
professional
true.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never thought of it like that.
yeah. In
Yeah.
2014, the enrollment, the I guess you say demographics.
Uh
This
huh.
the After the post-war baby boom, there was a
Hmm.
post-war baby boom echo.
Uh huh.
I was the 1948 post-baby boom era, and
Hmm.
as we went through our lives, and then we became family members again, and we started raising our families. All of a sudden,
Hmm.
there's another large number of young people going and people in the school systems.
Uh huh.
Then now that people are not only having one or two kids, the number of students is consistently dropping in
Right.
America, you know,
Oh,
and
worldwide. Yeah.
yeah, worldwide. It's that that was when I had an opportunity to retire.
Hmm.
When they said to me that since we have need an excess teacher in the school here, they gave me a whole year's salary to retire with.
Hmm.
And so I got a good boost there. And they turned
Wow.
around at tax time, they took a third of it back.
Yeah,
Right.
you
They
know,
jumped in
Uncle
that high
Sam.
tax bracket. Had to take it all at once.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was just it worked out great. I actually when I retired, I had more income than when I was working, so it worked out pretty good.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so we're yeah.
It's very interesting. So, if you could, kind of go back in time, do you think you would have made all the same career decisions, or was there anything you would do differently?
No,
No, I don't think so. Other than
he,
uh, you know,
he always wanted to be a teacher,
yeah, and
Hmm.
and
and the subject area was very good for me. And I as I was teaching in Bethel School District, I went back where I worked at basketball games at night, and I go
Uh-huh.
over and help usher the basketball games. And former students who had gone off to college and gone to their jobs. I mean, I went over to Auburn to a basketball playoff game, and one of the guys who was there was one of my first students in the drafting program, and he went
Uh-huh.
from my program over to community college for a couple of years, and he got himself a job at Boeing, and he said,
Uh-huh.
you know, if you'd have told me I was going to be making this kind of money when I was in high school, I wouldn't have believed you. You know,
yeah,
I wouldn't believe you. But
Yeah.
he was very pleased. Later on, when I was teaching applied physics, I had a young man whose father also worked in the district. He worked in special ed,
Uh-huh.
And he used to think, his son had he was worried about what he would be doing with his life.
Uh-huh.
And when after he got the physics program and he got in the program with Boeing in the tech prep program, and graduated from high school and started working at Boeing, his
Uh-huh.
dad said to me one time we were in a meeting together. He says, "Mark, I never would have believed that my son would get this kind of employment when he
Wow.
was younger. I thought he was rather, uh, just a little bit different.
Immature
No,
or
not immature, but his,
hmm.
certain people have adaptations
Right.
to mechanical things and math and
Right.
mechanical things, and he
Yeah.
was able to. And he was a pretty good student, and I
No, that's
remember.
true. Yeah, I never thought of that before, but the classes you taught were really beneficial to those students who are maybe non-traditional students who
Right,
needed
right. I,
vocational or technical jobs
yeah.
were what was
I,
best for them.
I, I also recall a student who was from Mexico,
Hmm.
and he came up to me in the parking lot one night and one day when he was back picking up his girlfriend after graduation. He said, "Mr. Long, I got this job where I could read a protractor. I've been pipe at certain angles." And he said, "You taught me how to read a protractor." That
Wow.
later on in his life, when he knew how to measure angles, he got this job because he could measure angles. And
Wow.
he really appreciated me teaching him that
Hmm.
simple little thing that led to an occupation for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's moments like that that make you feel
Yeah,
your self fulfillment as a teacher, right?
right.
That's great. That's great.
And when we were in Germany, uh,
Which time? Better clarify.
as I was teaching
Yeah.
math in Germany, I got involved in a mathematical contest with my students.
Hmm.
What was that? Math?
Oh, you mean the stock market?
No, the math.
Oh,
Like an
oh,
Olympiad type of thing.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like a
Hmm.
math bowl. You know,
yeah,
Hmm.
you compete against other schools.
yeah, the math
Right.
thing. And we won 2 years in a row, and the kids just was, it was unbelievable that I would have these kids
Mm.
to be able to do that type of math in a kind of a club type situation. And then we took
Right.
them over to taking a little ride on the bus and go over and take the contest, and they come out twice winning. I
Hmm.
was just shocked both times. I was just they really did a good job.
Wow. So your
Yeah,
career, I mean, from your student teaching, which was what, probably around 75, something like that,
yeah.
to when you
70. I
finished.
graduated in 70. I was in class of 75, so my student
Uh-huh.
teaching was 74, 75.
Right. So you did your student teaching 74, 75, and then you
Yeah,
retire
74.
in what, 2011?
Four. Oh wait,
Oh,
no, 2014.
14.
I retired 14.
He's been retired 10 years now.
So yeah, so a 40-year teaching career from student teaching to
37,
retirement.
37
37 to be
years.
exact.
Right, right. But just that span of time, 40 years from
Yeah.
student teaching to retirement. I'm
Okay.
sure I'm sure the teaching profession changed a lot during that time. What can you think of some of the big ways that, going back from 74 to 2014, what would be some of the big changes that you
Changes.
witnessed?
Well,
Well, the advent of the computer.
oh,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
definitely. When while I was in I there's a program called Khan's Academy, in which the students I would assign the students for homework to do work in
Mhm.
that academy, and I could keep track of where
Right,
they were as far as spending time at the computer, practicing math on the
right,
computer with that program, and that was something that was introduced as I came through the system.
right.
This idea of being able to take coursework like you've done
Uh-huh.
online and
Uh-huh.
receive credits for college as well as you get a high school degree. Everything is coming through the computer now.
Hmm.
Right,
It's
right.
good. you know.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a big change. Did you ever feel pressure that you needed to learn computers well in order to stay on top of your profession?
Well, actually, in Bethel School District, he was one of the first teachers to use and teach with computers, right?
Right.
You taught other teachers. You did some after school classes, right?
Yeah, I
You
did.
taught
Oh,
at
cool.
Pacific Lutheran University.
Mm-hmm.
You taught,
The
remember, other
night, yeah, I
teachers,
taught night courses
night class.
at Pacific University.
Oh, you
So,
trained other teachers how to use computers?
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
You know,
great.
the advent of the computer, when we got into word processing and math, you know, the skill of doing a spreadsheet with an Excel, you know, that
Right.
changed the whole thing of you know, writing a paper and doing it, you know, and all those things that are in the computer now
Yeah.
that help
Yeah.
in the writing. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And also for teachers, the changes through the years with the computer usage in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Teachers, I don't know if I like it or not, but they would just, a lot of them, I noticed when I was a substitute teacher when we were in Dodds, they just, they use the computer for tutorial
Uh-huh.
learning,
Yeah.
and I kind of had different thoughts about that. For
Right.
some kids, it was okay, but for others, they
Right.
just kind of goofed off and didn't get serious about doing their work. So,
Right. Right.
um, it just depends on the student, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just old school, old fashioned. I like
Right.
the teacher student interaction. And you haven't asked me what I majored in.
What did you major in?
I also wanted to be a teacher, and I was going for health and
Uh-huh.
PE teacher.
Right. And that's
So,
what you got your associate's degree in?
well, his associate's degree was just
Your general
um,
ed stuff, right?
general
Yeah.
studies, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Okay. Mhm.
basically getting the basic courses out of the way.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, you would have been a great health and
yeah.
PE teacher.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, I guess, that's just kind of been on my mind lately just because in a couple weeks we're making a big move and,
Big move.
just been thinking about career choices and things like that. That's why I kind of wanted to pick your brain about it. And, I can imagine how technology really affected your, your career as a teacher. It's a big deal now with artificial intelligence and everything. And that I think that's going to kind of be the next big step in education, and I'm personally feeling a little bit of pressure to learn it and to apply it as much as possible because I don't want to get behind the curve of everyone else. And I think it's better to be ahead of the curve with new educational technology. So
Right.
that's good to hear that I think you kind of felt the same way, Dad, and that's why you learned computers pretty quickly to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my first
Interesting.
course in teaching computers. It was kind of I picked up a book, textbook that guided me through what I was going to be teaching.
Uh-huh.
And one of my students, I was in the office and he'd come back to do something. He came up to me and says, I got down to Florida and what you taught me in high school. I was able to challenge the course at the beginning course at the
Uh-huh.
college, and they gave me credit for it because I'd already gone through so much
Oh, that's
and
great.
knew something. It's a good thing to be able to
Wow.
say that to your students. You prepare them for what they can do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
that's
and that's one
amazing.
thing about
I mean,
vocational ed that's really going down the in our country right now. There's not much going on at the high school level for
mhm.
vocational level classes. It's really deteriorating. You don't have any more wood shops, metal shops,
Or
automotives,
these are important things because not
Yeah,
everyone
It's
is
not being taught at the high school
attracted
level.
to academia.
yeah,
They
yeah,
want more use of their hands and minds rather than just their minds, I guess you might say.
yeah.
And I think that's real important. That
Oh, I agree. Yeah. There's
yeah,
there's a lot of people who need alternative paths to careers that
right.
doing the research and study side of academia doesn't really fit everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
hands-on applied sciences and things like that, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
students need that.
I remember there was a student at Bethel High School. He graduated and went on to college. He got a degree in journalism. He
Hmm.
went to work for the Tacoma News Tribune,
Tribune.
Hmm.
writing articles and things. And then he realized what little money he was going to be able to make in journalism. So he went back with his father. His father was an electrician. He went to work for his father and learned to become an electrician. And how he's earned
That's
his
great.
living now.
Yeah.
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 I think, yeah, sometimes I
Yeah.
wish that I had learned a trade really well, because it's a good fallback in case things get
It
crazy.
is. Learn to use your hands.
Yeah, those are what was referred to as bread and butter jobs. You're going to always
Right.
get a situation where you get bread and butter.
Right.
You
Right.
can earn a living.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, I think
Yeah.
we can wrap up there. Thank you very much.